Man. La 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 la. Horses, horses, horses. Jeez, come on.
Sorry, I messed up.
You messed up the whole thing.
You know what? I gotta.
La 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 la. Hello.
Hello, welcome to Thrifter Sisters Vlogmas Day Dose
2. That's day 2.
That's for our bilingual viewers.
I dressed my baby for the occasion.
Yeah! Here's our basket of tricks. All right, let's see what we got going today.
I like to mix things up a bit. I'm gonna go with red. Did red yesterday. Doing red again. I think it was red.
I don't know, I didn't look.
Mushroom soup.
So this is
me.
This is you. My sister makes a mushroom soup. And
I do make a mushroom soup. It's
a
thrifty meal.
Yes.
It's a thrifty meal. Yeah, it is.
A few of our viewers have asked about recipes and sharing some of our recipes. And I thought that maybe my sister's mushroom soup. Now, I am not a fan of mushrooms. She loves this recipe though, and she makes it for her family a lot in the colder months.
Yes.
So I thought it would be a great Vlogmas recipe to try out.
It's a great recipe to try out. I'm psyched.
Lost it for a minute there.
I'm psyched.
So
it's a thrifty meal. It's great for colder weather.
It's cold.
It's
here in Ohio today.
Favorite. It's a Hungarian soup. We are Romanian, but fun fact, our grandma grew up right on the border of Romania and Hungary. She was Hungarian for a long time during her childhood, and then the communists seized her town and she became Romanian.
It's true.
Yeah.
And so actually a lot of the recipes that we make, even though they are Romanian recipes, they're actually made Hungarian style.
Yeah.
But this wasn't given to Sarah by our grandmother though. It
was in one of the recipe books.
Oh, so it was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. It wasn't given, not from her hands to mine.
I gotcha. But she could very easily have eaten this herself as a small child.
Oh my gosh.
So anyways, Sarah will actually be the hands in the pot, so to speak. She will be actually preparing this recipe, but I will be helping to prep, not necessarily taste, because I don't want to eat the fun.
She won't be touching the mushrooms.
So let's get to it.
Yeah. In here. All right, folks. Hungarian mushroom soup. Very easy, very tasty, especially when it's cold outside, and very economical. So what I did is I had all of this stuff on hand already. So I took my last Aldi's, I shop at Aldi's, took my last Aldi's receipt, and I just jotted down the prices of each thing so I can give you, a ballpark of what it is. Moral is it's basically under $10 to make this pot of soup, and it will feed, if you're like us, because I could eat soup every single day, and I love leftovers. We all love leftovers. So if you're like us, this could feed you and your family. I would say easily a family of 4 to 6, one meal. Or if it's just you or a family of 2, or maybe like 2 and 1 kid, it could feed you maybe 2 or 3 nights. So for under 10 bucks, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so here's our ingredients. So we went ahead and we're gonna start with, this is 4 pounds of, no it's not, I'm sorry. This is 2 pounds of mushrooms, and I have gone ahead and just cleaned them and chopped them up into slices, and you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to look nice. You can cut them into slivers, do whatever you want. And you can use any kind of mushrooms. These are portobellos, baby portobellos, but you can use any kind of mushrooms you like. Wild mushrooms are super yummy in this. These I just got from Aldi's, 99 cents for a pound, so I've got 2 pounds here, so that's $2 for mushrooms, and that's the price at my Aldi's. We have over here salt and pepper to taste. We have 4 tablespoons of butter, stick butter. You want real butter in this. We have 1 large onion chopped up, or you can use 2 small onions. Onions, 3-pound bag at Aldi's is $1.69, sometimes less. This time it was $1.69. So again, we use 1 large one or 2 small ones, so you'll have onions to spare. We have 2 tablespoons of paprika, and here in the front is 2 teaspoons of dill. It's dried dill. Now, I had this dill left over from my summer garden. I harvested my dill and then dried it out in my basement. It was a fun process, and it's been fine. I think it retained a lot of its flavor. So that was free to me, but spices like dill and paprika are available. I see them between 99 cents and $1.99 at Aldi's, and sometimes Aldi's can be a little bit crazy about which spices they have, but they're getting better. They're getting more and more. So I know they have paprika there. I've never looked for dill. So anyways, that's those. Here we have a 1/2 cup of flour. And that's just regular flour. I did look up the price. A 5-pound flour at Aldi's is $1.59. We get ours at Costco though, because we get that humongous bag. And I don't know the price of that, but that's, again, it's the Aldi's price. Soy sauce, it's to taste. And here we have broth. Now, the deal on broth is, this can be made, I have beef broth on hand. We are not vegetarians. I sometimes eat vegetarian. If I'm having a vegetarian night, I will use vegetable broth in this, and it is fine. If you like chicken broth, use chicken broth. If you like water and broth concentrate, use that. It doesn't really matter. And then, again, here's the soy sauce to taste. So, that's all our ingredients. Now, if we were doing just the basic recipe that my grandma brought over from Hungary, then this would just be it. The recipe does state that the soy and the dill are optional. I have made it without dill if I didn't have it on hand, and it ends up fine. So there's this. However, in my family, we love to add sausage to it. It's really good. So there I am. Okay, I usually like to buy a nice Hungarian sausage. If I'm gonna add sausage, I don't happen to have that on hand. What you want if you're gonna get a Hungarian sausage is a nice smoked Hungarian sausage. And just, you know, go to your Eastern European store and ask them for a smoked sausage. Really, any good Hungarian smoked sausage will work. There are, let's see, I'm trying to remember the names. There's like it's spelled with a G, it's spelled Yulai, but it's spelled with like a G-U-Y or something like that. That's a really, really tasty one. I think it's like a pork sausage, but it's smoked. And then like Chizurk, I'm sure I'm pronouncing them wrong, but it's like C-Z-E-R-K-S, something like that. Chizurk, I think it's called. And that's another smoked sausage. Those are the two that I usually flop between. Anyway, don't have it. So what I'm just gonna use is a kielbasa. Any kielbasa, I got this from Aldi's. There it is, and I just sliced it up. Okay, so that is your ingredient list. Okay, I'm trying to find the best way to do this. But here we are. Basically, you just need a nice big soup pot, as big as you like. Definitely you don't want a saucepan or something. You want a good soup pot. And I went ahead and put the butter in, and we are just gonna melt this down. What's next? A side note, I'm using a wooden spoon for this. A wooden spatula, as Paula Dean would call it. But later on we're gonna make almost kind of like a roux with this. So it is nice to have some kind of something you can scrape with, because you wanna get all of those good bits off the bottom, because that is what makes this soup basically taste like it cooked all day when it cooks in a very short period of time. Okay, so that butter's starting to melt, as we can see. So to that, I'm going to go ahead and add in all of my onion. I love that sound. And all of the mushrooms. And here's the deal. You don't really have to do a lot with it, okay? Again, it's the beauty of soup. It doesn't have to look pretty. Maybe give it a mix so that all that butter gets coated, but you are just gonna cook this until these mushrooms release all of their liquid. That means they're gonna get very mushy, You'll see them change in consistency, and I'll show you when it happens. And then what you want to happen is that the mushrooms will soak back up some of that. So what you'll see is they'll get mushy, and then a few minutes later you're going to see that they kind of start to dry out a little bit. All in all, I would guess it takes about 10 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes. I'll show you. So you just let it go to town. I like to put a lid on it while this is happening because it helps suck out some of the moisture of the mushrooms. So there we are. And I'll show you when they get to the mushy state. So just leave it alone. Okie dokie. My mushrooms have reached the mushy state, what I'm calling the mushy state. So when they have, you'll see, look how much liquid is in there. I'm trying not to let the camera fog up, but you can see that there is a lot of liquid. The mushrooms that once looked kind of meaty and white are now kind of just looking dull and slimy, for lack of a better word. At this time, now they're not done yet. You have to let them, as I said, suck up some of that moisture. But what I'm going to do at this point is add in my salt and pepper. Salt, when you add it to mushrooms, well, when you add it to anything, it sucks out moisture. That's why you can use it to make preserved things like pickles and all of that. So what I'm going to do is add that salt in, and any liquid that's left in those mushrooms, it's really going to suck it out. If you add the salt at the beginning, sometimes it doesn't allow all of the flavor to come out of the mushrooms, I find. So I like to add the salt to my mushrooms right when they're at this stage, just to suck out that last little bit of moisture in there. So salt and pepper to taste. I tend to like mine a little bit more peppery. That's up to you. Feel free to try a mushroom at this time so you can gauge what the taste is, and you just want a really yummy, nice tasting mushroom. Okay, so then we're going to keep letting it cook until some of that moisture, now at this point you're going to need to leave the lid off because you want some of that moisture to evaporate. So just let them cook a little bit longer. Now the recipe says to let those mushrooms dry out completely. But I don't like doing that because I like to get some of that mushroom juice that you see on the bottom into the soup because it's very tasty. And so that kind of tends to, and since we're just using like a generic stock in this, that gives your soup a very mushroomy taste to me. So, as you can see, some of that liquid, oops, has dried out. If you swish it, you can see a little bit. This is the time that I'm going to go ahead and add in my next ingredient. Okay, so this is the only tricky part of the soup. At this time, you're going to add in your flour and your paprika. And you are just going to let that cook while stirring for about 5 to 8 minutes. We don't want the soup to taste like flour. So during this time, that flour is absorbing all the liquid that's in the pot. And eventually that flour will start to taste like your mushroomy goodness. But if we were to just add the stock right now, our finished soup would have a very starchy, kind of bland taste. The flour wouldn't have time to absorb the mushroom liquid. So just give it a few minutes. It might seem like the bottom of your pan is going to burn. I promise it's not. As soon as our 5 to 8 minutes is up, we're going to add our stock in, and we're going to scrape up any bits that get crusted onto the bottom of your pan. And that's going to help flavor our soup. So no worries. Just keep kind of, as you can see, I'm just kind of moving it around a little bit. It's not an exact science. Just use your common sense. And I will admit, at this point, it smells a little funky. You might be thinking, that looks disgusting. I don't know how this is going to taste, but I promise you, if you are a mushroom lover, you are going to love this soup. Our niece, Kristen and my niece, recently became a vegetarian. She's in her sophomore year of college, so it's about the right time for her to become a vegetarian, I say. But it's also very good for health. If you're not an all-the-time vegetarian, even just to eat a couple vegetarian meals a week, oh boy, we're steaming up, is a good healthy practice, I think. Just eat, you know, consume less animal protein. So, a lot of times I will make this soup, since I love mushrooms and so does my husband, as a nice vegetarian weeknight meal, because it is very easy. Okay, so you can see things are getting very smoky. And for some reason, my nose knows, and I just know that we're about ready. So what we're going to do at this point is lower the temperature, about middle of your dial, whatever that is, and add just a touch of the stock. It's going to sizzle like crazy. I'm going to try to hold the pan or the camera back so it doesn't. Maybe just a couple cups, because what you want to do is you want to, as I said, scrape the bottom of that pan once your stock is in there to get all that goodness. You also are, at this point, mixing in very well all of that flour so you don't get a clumpy soup. And you'll be able to feel with your wooden spoon where the bottom needs scraped and if you've done it well enough. And don't be afraid to just really get in there. As you can see, you can already see that it's thickening up. That's a good sign. That means that flour is getting very incorporated. Okay, and if it starts to get really thick, go ahead and add in more stock. And keep scraping and stirring. Okay, that's all my stock. And get in there, get in the bottom, and get all that scraped.
Hello.
You can be my camera person now, because it's very hard to hold this with one hand.
Okay.
So here I am, scraping away. And again, you'll be able to feel with your spoon where the bottom needs scraped. Just get it all in there. And don't worry, if you miss some, it's not like it's going to burn and crust on the bottom of your pan or anything. Soup is very forgiving. So just get it as best you can. And I think I'm just about there. So at this point, your soup looks like this. It's a little bit, you can tell that it's murky or cloudy, I guess. It definitely isn't a clear brothed soup. And you can tell that most of the flour is mixed in. You don't see any flour chunks, anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add, I don't think that I said at the beginning, it's a total of 4+ cups of stock. Okay, so I've added 2 cups, and I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 more cups of water. Because as I said before, that I like to leave a lot of that mushroom juice, because I feel like that really flavors my soup more towards like a mushroomy. I really love mushroom flavor. So if you don't like the mushroom flavor as much, water it down with 4+ cups of your stock. But for me, I'm gonna go ahead and add 2 cups water. Keeping in mind that I'm also tweaking the recipe by adding my sausage. So that's also going to flavor. Okay, so my sister has filled up my stock container with water, so I'll go ahead and add that in. And since I added that in and I added my cool stock, we are ready to add the sausage. When you are adding meat to any kind of a soup where you want to draw out the meat flavor, add it when your liquid is cold, because a cold liquid will draw out the flavor of your meat. Or your veggies. If you're making like your own stock or something, start with cold water. As the water heats up, it sucks out the delicious juices from whatever you're making, and it helps to flavor. So this is where we're at. Now, this is where you can tweak to your own liking. If you like a more broth-like soup, add more liquid. If you tend to like soups that are more hearty and chunky and more chunks, then add less. It's completely up to you. Now, here's where you can add your optional ingredients. As I said before, I've made it without, and it turns out really well. And those optional ingredients are our dried dill. Add that right in. And our soy sauce. Soy sauce is to taste. I usually like to add about a tablespoon or so. So I'm going to start with a tablespoon. And if I feel I need more at the end, I'll add it. But I don't think I will. The soy sauce, I think, is intended to kind of flavor it more since we just used a stock. But since I really utilized that mushroom juice, I don't think mine's going to need any more flavor. So this is it. You can see that the broth is reddish. It has flecks of that dill running through it, which is really just hearty. It's something nice to look at when it's cold outside. It makes you feel like, yeah, this is warm and it's gonna be great. So that's it. I'm gonna put the lid on. I'm gonna bring it to a boil, and I'm gonna let it cook since I put the sausage in, probably about 10, 15, even as much as a half hour. You can let it go as much as you want. Really, your soup's done. And you just cook it, keep tasting it. Cook it until you feel it tastes good, but no more than a half hour. And we'll come back at that point. Oh, it smells good. So if it were me, and I didn't cook very often, I would get freaked out by this, so I thought I'd put it on. Whenever you're making soup or anything, and you see, let's see, foam like that coming on top, don't freak out. Remember what I said about the cold water? All that means is that the cold water is drawing out all the flavorings and everything in your meat or veggies or whatever kind of thing you're cooking. So that's a good sign. It will go away. It's perfectly okay to eat. You can scrape it off if you want, but that kind of defeats the point. But that's goodness right there. It's looking good. Okay, so soup is finished. It's been cooking for a little bit. It doesn't look much different than it did. Am I in there? There we go. It doesn't look much different than it did. You can see the sausage puffed up. It's got a lot of mushrooms in there. They got smaller. And it smells delicious. Okay, so to serve it, there we go. I like to put a little bit of sour cream in mine. We all like it. So that's it. We serve it up with some sour cream, some more than others, some really tasty bread for dipping. Take a bite. Take a bite and enjoy. Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're enjoying ours with some bread. It's a very yummy, easy meal. Oh yeah. Gwen has hers with a little grilled cheese. What do you think, honey?
Good.
Good. Mushroom soup.